Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. Thank you so much for spending a portion of your lunchtime with me today for April's episode of inSPIRED. Firstly, I am going to say apologies if you can hear some traffic noise. For some reason, Canterbury is like downtown Mumbai. I've never seen so many cars just like tearing past. People are arguing. It's all kicking off. It's quite exciting. I'm not going to lie. But alas, there might be a little bit of background noise. So I do apologize if that's the case. Also, this is April. I have just turned 33. So I am 1 year older and 1 year uglier than the last time you saw me, which is wonderful. But alas, it was my birthday last week. So yeah, I'm now 33, which is kind of terrifying. I don't quite know how we got here, but anyway, we move. Thank you, as I said, for joining me today. If you have any questions throughout the live stream, please whack them in the comments and I will do my best to answer them for you. As always, I have 5 fantastic LinkedIn posts to showcase for you guys today, as well as my post of the month, which is a banger. And I said yesterday that this episode was banging. It is banging, all right? This is like Carousel City. Okay, there's been some really good carousels. It's Carousel Carnival. I'm going to go with Carousel City. That's got a better ring to it. A lot of information, a lot of great insight. So without further ado, I'm going to get the presentation up and let's crack on with this bad boy. So let me go little. There we go. There's my beautiful face in all its horrendous glory. So welcome to April's episode of inSPIRED. I really hope you enjoy it. I really hope you find it valuable. And as always, if you have any feedback on these live streams, please do let me know either in the comments or send me a DM on LinkedIn. I'm always really interested to get your guys' feedback, and it means a lot to me that you guys spend a period of your day watching. So any way that I can improve this process for you, please do let me know. All right, less of the mumbo jumbo, and now let's jump into this one. Okie dokie. So our first post for the April's episode of inSPIRED is a really good one, okay? Charles Miller, if you don't follow Charles, please do. He is a fantastic copywriter and a very, very good storyteller. And I find myself looking at his content quite regularly because I think he has a very strong way of describing topics and actually putting topics in a digestible format, which we know is kind of pivotal to get people interested on LinkedIn. And he kind of like doubles down on this idea with this post, which is about getting to the point. And something that we're all guilty of, myself included, is that sometimes we want to retain someone reading or engaging in our content and then give them the reward. It's almost kind of like we bait them in. It's kind of like, gotcha. And then we want them to keep reading and then we deliver them the reason why they're reading. And actually, sometimes it's better to get to the point, to actually be more direct, to be clearer, and actually take away the gumph, strip out, as he says, the 3 boring lines. And what he means there is the bit before you hit the see more button. He's talking about ultimately getting your readers interested immediately by telling them the focal point of the post. And he does this here. It's a really nice example. That's a huge copywriting mistake, not getting to the point right away. Then the see more option would come in on the post if you're looking on desktop or mobile. And it just kind of emphasizes the point that if you start your content fast, you've got a higher chance of grabbing someone's attention. And as we know, not just on LinkedIn, but on any social platform, really, the attention is currency. Yeah. Attention is what we need to grab because attention is what generates engagement. If we can't get someone's attention, we can't get their interest. So if we don't achieve those things, how on earth are we going to get them to be interested in what we do? How are they going to look at our content? How are they going to move on to our profile? It's having an awareness of how users use LinkedIn and use social media platforms, what their behavior is. And once you have an understanding of that behavior, making your content lean into that behavior. And the behavior trait that we're really trying to tackle here is attention. The quickest way that we can get someone's attention. And the easiest way of doing that is by being direct, by getting to the point. I think this is a really good post and a really good reminder. And I like the fact that Charles has actually used it structurally in the post that he's writing about to kind of really double down and reinforce why this post is helpful. And it's exactly the reason why I engaged with it. You know, when I'm looking for content on inSPIRED, I'm looking at content that I equally find engaging and interesting, and that is why this one stood out to me. So fantastic post from Charles. Great start. Let's move on. Okay, so I think we're in the first of our several carousels. I did say this was Carousel City. So post 2 this month is from Ryan Flett. Now, if you've been a long time watcher of Inspired, you'll know that I've featured Ryan several times. I think Ryan's approach to video content is absolutely fantastic. I think he has crystal clear messaging. I think he has a real strong kind of personal brand and identity around who he is and what he does. And I believe he's one of the better educators when it comes to video content. And this post here, which he's kind of paired with a carousel, which I will show you some slides from, is all about how you can fundamentally build authority through video. Now, we all know that video is a platform that we should embrace. We should embrace it as regularly as possible. We also know that there are many barriers to video. Video can be time consuming to produce. It requires a degree of confidence. It maybe requires basic editing skills. There are a myriad of things that you have to do and have to become comfortable with to be a regular video creator. But when you do become a video creator, naturally, you want to maintain a sense of authority. So similarly to what Charles was saying, we want people to watch our content. We need to actually demand their attention in order to get them to view. And one of the best ways of doing that is by having an authoritative approach. And what Ryan says in this post is the fact that theoretically, the main goals of your videos should be as follows. It should be to express an idea succinctly. It should be to do this simply and clearly and make it understandable, make it memorable, and make it foundational. And I really like this. I think it's essentially creating those building blocks to give someone the information and tools that they need to go on and develop those skills themselves. It's starting to roll out the red carpet and letting them walk to their own premiere. It's like reinforcing the things that they want to know and giving them the validation and ability to go and do those things. And on the next slide, he kind of breaks this down more. And he says that a great way to do this is with short form video. Now, we know that short form video is increasingly popular. Myself and Phoebe on a special not too long ago spoke about the importance of short form video. And the reason why I like this approach is because he's talking about a short form video for each individual idea. So if you think about when you yourself as a user has engaged with a piece of content, or maybe you've had to read an assignment to complete at work or read an email that's got multiple points that you need to remember, it's very difficult to follow those things clearly when there's more than one objective, when there's more than one idea. So if you have 5 ideas or 5 pieces of information that you really need to tell your audience, make a video per idea. Maybe make them into a small series. Funnel it down to one fundamental direction or piece of information per piece of content. Because this way you will not only be able to reinforce the point that you're making, but it will be so much easier for the person who's consuming it. And at the end of the day, that is always the main focus. We quite often get into an idea and a mindset that we create content for ourselves, but we don't. We create content for our audience. We create content for the people who want to consume it. And one of the best ways that we can do that is by being clear, by being direct, and by giving them one principal thing to do. I did a post not too long ago talking about how too much choice is the real enemy of marketing. And this is a reinforcement of that logic. If we give our audiences too many things to think about or too many things to do or too many decisions to make, they are going to be inactive because it's too much responsibility. So hit them with one idea, do that clearly, do that succinctly. And if you have more, do another video, do another post, create a series, create a foundation for them to learn from you. I think this is a really good carousel from Ryan. I highly recommend you check it out. And just to let you know, tomorrow's post on my profile will be the links to all of the posts featured on Inspired. So you can go through, check them all out in full, follow the creators. Lovely jubbly. All right. Post numero, is it 3? Yeah, 3. Post 3, the third one. Cool. Yeah. My language is not great, is it? So third post for April's episode of Inspired comes from the main man himself, Richard van der Blom. Now, I've been a big fan of Richard pretty much since I started using LinkedIn in this, I guess, degree that I am. Richard is an absolute bank of information. And he's also one of, I believe, the leading people when it comes to testing, to trial, to find out what's going on with algorithms, with updates, with new software, with new features. He's a leader in that division, and he's made a manifesto. And I think this is a really interesting piece of content because I feel like it's almost putting out a kind of suggested guidelines now that there is such a huge influx of new people using LinkedIn. And the reason this stood out to me is because a lot of the foundation things are still the fundamentals. We quite often try and like reinvent the wheel. We quite often try and like bring in the latest fad or like the newest thing, or, oh, this is working really well at the moment, so let's do loads of that or whatever. When actually the foundational element of how you use LinkedIn hasn't really changed. And he's kind of outlined the things that he himself doesn't do in order to retain an active, strong personal brand and a strong LinkedIn presence. I'm not going to go through all of these. You can read them in your own time. But I really want to highlight particularly number 1 and number 3. So on number 1, he says, I do not use automation tools such as inviting or sending messages to contacts. So what he means by this is not having LinkedIn Helper or another kind of automated device that essentially mimics your behavior. And I think this is really critical because at the moment, the world, his wife, his dog, and its fleas are all posting about AI all the time. And whilst that's great, the trouble with the continuous communication around AI leads to people looking at many ways they can essentially growth hack what they're doing. If AI tools can write your post for you, they can automate your profile for you. And fundamentally, whilst there are great uses of these softwares and these technologies, fundamentally, this is your profile, this is your presence, and you should be using this organically. You should be talking to people organically. You should be messaging them organically. You should be having those tangible, real-life conversations with new prospects. That is how you're going to build a strong foundational use of your LinkedIn. And the third one is I do not spread misleading or harmful information, which I know is obviously obvious. Obviously obvious. We'll go with it. But fundamentally, it's really important that as you use these tools and these outlets for your opinions, your feedback, your information, your analysis of life, your craft, whatever, it's making sure you do so in a way that doesn't kind of put you into an awkward situation. Again, there's a lot of stuff, particularly around now with like the economy, politics, like a myriad of different things that are happening in our lives at any one time that create this kind of like soapbox environment for people to just blurt stuff out. And it's just having that mindfulness and awareness that the things that you put out on your profile, whether you think it or not, are a knowing reflection of you, and a reflection of kind of like your stance and your standpoint. That's not to say you shouldn't have your own, your own opinions and your own value proposition and your own style. You absolutely should. It's just being sensitive and mindful of how you put information out there and how other people can kind of interpret or use that information. I think this is a really good kind of like guide to have, something that maybe just everyone should have like kind of pinned on their computer to reference. And if you want further kind of advice or like information about updates and things that are happening on LinkedIn, go and follow Richard van der Blom. Honestly, do one thing today, make sure you're following him. You will not regret it. The guy is a treasure trove of information. So spend a little bit of time on his profile, go through his content, get a vibe of the tips and tricks you can learn from him, because he is an invaluable source of inspiration. So awesome post, Richard. On to my 4th post. And this is another carousel. Told you it was Carousel City, didn't I? So this is from a new entrant on inSPIRED, and it's John Harrison. Now, I came across John's profile probably about 2.5, 3 months ago, and he has a really interesting approach to using words. And as a content creator and the head of content here at Finally, words is my bag. Right? That's what I spend my time doing, is writing words or thinking about words. So when I see John's posts come up, they immediately just hit like a flood of endorphins in my brain. And I love this carousel that he created about writing hooks. I actually shared some of this with the team a couple of weeks back because I feel like it was a really kind of important thing to utilize. So we're going to dive into a few slides from his carousel. So these are just a few screen grabs. I'll put the link out tomorrow, which will have the entire post. And I think there's about 7 or 8 different examples. But I want you to look at the highlighted words on these hooks, right? And then look at the kind of the explanation for why John has selected those particular words. And I really like the middle one. The good copywriters swear by these 7 rules. Now, looking at that, you're like, cool, it's a sentence. Great, Chris, thanks. But the use of good triggers an aspirational idea. So it's all about the subliminal psychological benefits and elements that happen when people read and consume information. The word swear is really strong, right? Good copywriters swear by. They put their chips on the table. They put their cards down. They bet on this. They swear by it. They believe in it. That word has like emotive quality, as he outlines here, but it also has this kind of like almost like a proof point, right? Like if you swear by something, you're so assured of it. You're so certain. You're absolutely nailed on 100%. And then the use of these 7 rules. And the reason why he's used the number 7 is because it's very specific. So rather than being like, oh, top 5 or top 3 or top 10, which we're all guilty of, myself included, using a number like 7 or a number like 4 or 11 or whatever, it immediately specifies what you're doing and it takes it out of that bracket of like listicle content. Listicle content is everywhere, right? Again, if we look at the first example here where he says how there's a lot of research into the fact that if you use the word how I rather than how to, that has a huge impact on the authority of your content. Because if you say how to fill up a car tire, all right, cool, you've learned how to fill up a car tire with it. But if you change it to how I got my car back on the road by inflating my broken tire or my flat tire, immediately what you're taking is ownership of that discipline. You are owning that thing. You did that. I did this, how I did it. And now I will tell you. And it creates a sense of authority in what you're saying. And that is a really kind of powerful way to motivate someone to engage and listen to your information. I also really like the use of kind of like ellipsis or colons here, where he kind of says there is an open loop. And what that basically means is that it feels like it hasn't ended. It's not tailoring off. Like the best is yet to come. And the psychological impact that has on a reader is really powerful. If you think about when you read a novel, right, and the chapter ends on word ellipsis, you immediately go, oh, I've got to read the next chapter now, haven't I? Because I need to know what happens. I need to know what happens after that ellipsis. It's a very powerful and clever technique to retain information, but also to retain engagement going forward, to keep someone invested for longer. And great copywriting does this in spades. And these are some really strong examples. Okay, and our 5th post, before we get on to our post of the month, is an awesome one from Rachel Simon. So I'm just going to have a slug of tea. Yummy. So great post here from Rachel Simon. And I really wanted to include this because here at Finally Agency, we spend a lot of time using LinkedIn. You know, pretty much most of the team now have an active LinkedIn profile and kind of, you know, audience and all that kind of stuff. And it takes time, right? It's a commitment. It's an investment of your own time, of your own ideas, your energy. You also have to kind of add it as a kind of additional layer of your work. And sometimes people don't want to have that undertaking. They don't want more work to do, which is understandable. They don't want more responsibility. They don't want more things they have to add to their to-do list. But what Rachel says here, which is so important, is that a proper LinkedIn strategy for your company is really powerful. And she says, LinkedIn touches nearly every function within a company. Yet often, organizations either make assumptions that everyone knows how to use LinkedIn since they have a profile, or they start on like step 3 or step 4 of a strategy before building the foundation. What she's saying here is people who do go for one quite often just have the idea that, oh, well, you know, it's only LinkedIn, isn't it? It's just like Facebook, isn't it? But no, it's not. Like you need a plan, you need a process, you need action, you need deliverables. That's how you're going to maintain that kind of sense of accountability. It's how you're going to work towards improving. It's going to be your platform for A/B testing content. But she gives some amazing justifications for why companies should use LinkedIn and why they should have a LinkedIn strategy. And I love them. So I'm going to share them with you now. This is just a few. All right. There's more than this. But there are a few here that I really, really want to kind of like drive your attention to. So the first one I want you to look at is the middle on the top row. Employee shared content is reshared 24 times more frequently than content shared by an organization. What that basically means in layman's terms is no one gives a crap what your company's doing. Like, cool. Great. You hired someone, you did a blog, like whatever, like no one really cares, right? What they care about is what your employees are doing. What are your employees doing? What are your employees talking about? What are they working on? What are they working towards? How are they helping your organization? They are your messengers, right? Your employees are your best spokespeople. They are your advocates. They are aligned to your brand. They understand your brand, your mission, your values, all of that stuff. And they can say it so much better than the organization can. Because if it comes from their mouth, it has a degree of kind of authenticity. It has their flavor, it has their personality, it has their spin on it. It immediately feels more authentic and it bleeds perfectly into why people are now really, trending on things like de-influencing because they value the opinion of people over the opinions of brands and organizations. So this is a really important tool. And similarly, it kind of drip feeds down to the next point, which is that employee advocacy can increase lead gen by up to 67%. So not only are your employees mascots for your business, they're also a great tool for helping you win more business. Like how could it really get any better than that? You've got people who can talk on your behalf, promote your business, promote your services, promote the culture and the identity of your business, and in turn, draw more people in, make more people want to work with you, make more people want to make an inquiry. That's really powerful, like really powerful. There's also some other amazing stats on here, like audiences that are exposed to brand messaging on LinkedIn are 6 times more likely to convert. 82% of employees will research a CEO's online presence when considering joining a company. So again, they look for the people, not necessarily the positions. It's why, Bill Gates is more followed than Microsoft. People are interested in the man more than they are the brand. There are some amazing stats in this post, which I will share in full tomorrow. But honestly, having a coherent company-wide LinkedIn strategy is really important. And I think these numbers and these stats give justification for why you guys should be posting on LinkedIn, or why, if your company isn't, but maybe your employees are, helping them maximize the potential of that, investing the time and the resources into content creation on LinkedIn and giving them the resources that they need to promote on your behalf, because it's a really powerful tool. Okay. So they are the 5 posts, but as always, I do have a post of the month, a Brucey bonus for you. The chaos outside us seemed to calm down a little bit. Bit of a shame, really, but at least it's a bit quieter. So my post of the month comes from a creator who I featured before, and literally about 30 minutes ago was named the 18th best creator on LinkedIn out of 2 billion odd users. Okay. The guy is #1 for brand voice. He's #1 for copywriting. He's #1 for personal branding. The guy is an absolute LinkedIn machine and he's brilliant. And this post is an absolute demonstration of his brilliance. It's Jasmine Alik. Now, if you don't follow Jazz, just go and do it. That's all I need to say. Just go and follow him, okay? The guy is an absolute legend on this thing, and his content is so helpful. I think his posts are genuinely brilliant. Whenever they pop up in my feed, they are like a highlight of my news feed. His content is fantastic. It looks fantastic, and it's always helpful. And the second I saw this post, I knew immediately it was my post of the month. It wasn't going in the top 5. It was the post of the month. I knew that it was done. Okay. He's put 7. I'm going to show you a few rather than all 7, but the psychological writing hacks. And I think this really doubles down on what we were saying about John's content using hooks. I think Jasmine here kind of taps into the psychological element of how people feel and connect to your content. And that is something that is like so important, not just on LinkedIn, but anywhere, on your website, on your blogs, on your landing pages, anywhere, really. Like any touch point you have with a customer where you have to use copy and dialogue to communicate with them, having an understanding of the psychological impact when they read and engage with your content is massively, massively important. So I'm going to take you through a few of my favorites. So I love this one. I think this is really clever and it's really easy to add into your content. It's creating the illusion of truth. So what Jasmine says here is repeat something a minimum of 3 times. So want to know the ultimate writing hack? Repetition. Studies show that people trust statements they've heard before 60 times more than those they haven't. The magical number, 3, repeating something 3 times. And then a quote, repetition, use it in your writing and use it wisely. Tell your readers what you're going to say it and tell them what you've said. So the repetition element is essentially that you're reinforcing a statement. You're making that statement stronger in someone's mind. You're adding more value to it. You're adding more point to it. You're emphasizing it. And the emphasization of that point increases its importance and its perceived value. And what that does is it means a person is more likely to remember it. It's a really clever way of kind of framing something that you want to say. So if you have something that you believe is the real kind of heart of your post, use repetition as a weapon in the arsenal that you have to make it stand out more. I think this is a really clever tip that obviously works because the way that I read it stayed in my brain. So just from reading it one time, it stayed in my brain. Read it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. That point is so heavily reinforced. The next, which is something that as a kind of, a content creator, copywriter, etc., that really kind of stands out to me and something that I do in my own work is adding texture to words. So basically what he's saying here is when you add texture to adjectives, you create a sense of feeling. You turn a word from being, let's say, kind of like static or flat into something that has, as he says, texture. It has definition. It's almost like it's got a sensory element, like you could touch it or you know what that word feels like, yeah? So having a bad day, having a rough day, we can feel rough. We associate rough with sandpaper or something that's uneven, stone. We can feel that word. A seamless process, a silky, smooth process. Again, it's that tactility of that word. That had to hurt. That had to sting. Again, we can feel that. A bee sting, a tattoo needle, whatever it might be. It kind of adds an additional element of kind of sensoriness to your word. That's not a word, but you know what I mean. A kind of sensory element to what you're saying. And he puts on here as a pro tip, Google Wheel of Emotional Words and go and do that. It's brilliant. It categorizes how words essentially feel and like the definitions of those words based on what you're trying to say. It's a really clever tool. And I think this is a great way to kind of just bring people more emotively close to your content. And the last one I'm going to show you is one that I think is super interesting because realistically, it's not one that like you would normally do. I just realized I used the image twice there. Apologies. But it's using because often. So basically what he's saying here is if you use because regularly, it increases trustworthiness. It kind of reinforces trustworthiness. So he says for the least powerful version, you're not getting any leads. Here's how to fix it. Okay, fine. More powerful, you're not getting any leads. You're focusing on the wrong things. Here's how to fix it. Cool. Okay. Most powerful, you're not getting any leads because you're focused on the wrong things. Here's how to fix it. And the because basically connects the statements. It gives the emotive person first link between the things that you're trying to say. The because acts as almost like the binding element. So this is happening because of this. You did this because of that. And it kind of just adds those additional layers of kind of intrigue and I guess truth really to how people engage with what you're saying. I don't know how that image changed. That was obviously a booby on my part. I do apologize. But fundamentally, what Jazz is saying is that the bridge of the because just links and makes it that bit more personal. And that bit more personal turns into more trustworthiness. Now, as we know that the trustworthy element of what we're saying and how people feel about what we say is a massive driver in getting them interested and getting them retained. So even something simple as the word because, which every good editor, every good service like Grammarly or whatever will tell you don't use it. You don't need it. It's a filler word. But actually, I think in some contexts, it's very clever. And I think this process reinforces the point that he's making. It's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant carousel. And as I said, I will share the link with you all tomorrow in my post. But this is a wee roundup of all of the creators featured in April. Links to their profiles will all be shared tomorrow. So please, please do go show them some support. I had a really good time putting this episode of Inspired together for you guys. And I love finding new creators as well. So if you guys ever have any recommendations of great creators that I should be featuring on Inspired, do let me know. I'm an open book and there's always someone new to feature. So yeah, if you have any suggestions, holler at me. I would love to engage with new content. But for now, I will let you guys have any questions if you do have any. I'm just going to whip open the stream on my laptop just in case there are any that have come through that I cannot quite see on Restream just yet. But let me have a look and we'll see. Oh, there's a glitch in the matrix there. No? All right, cool. Well, I'll hang around for a few moments. If you do have a question, bang one in the chat. Similarly, as I said, if you do have any suggestions on kind of, how I can improve this live stream, do let me know. I do apologize for the error on the slides, and I don't know how I made that. Clearly a boo-boo. But thank you ever so much for spending some of your lunchtime with me today. I really do appreciate it. The next episode of Inspired will be out in May. That is going to be a special episode, guys. So get ready for that. It's going to be a really cool one. So the special episodes, if you didn't see the one I hosted with Phoebe, will be focused around like a specific topic, and it will be more of a kind of a webinar style where I'll be joined by a guest. So that is my plan for May. So more details coming soon on that for you. But yes, for now, I will leave you all in peace. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day and enjoy the remainder of your lunchtime. Thank you for joining me, and I'll speak to you all very soon. See you later.